What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the Wrk To Create Podcast. I'm your host, Colton Bacher. And in this episode, we're diving into my full origin story from my small town in South Dakota to directing music videos and traveling the world and building a six-figure creative career. I'm pulling back the curtain on my entire journey. I'm sharing the early days of drawing in art class, buying my first camera, starting a business during a global pandemic, and all the lessons I learned along the way. Plus, I've got actionable tips for every stage of the process, whether you're just starting out or you've been doing this for years. I even share how much money I make as my career progresses year by year. Oh, one quick thing I wanted to let you guys know. I wanted to let you guys know I started another new thing. It's my email newsletter. It's called Work in Progress, and if you don't have the time to listen to a long podcast, this is perfect. It's going to be super short, bite-sized pieces of value that I send out once a week. And so, yeah, I would just really appreciate you guys checking that out, subscribing to it, and yeah, again, I appreciate you. The link will be in the show notes or description. So let's get into it.
I done came up, went through the ups and downs, but I stayed tough. Never took a shortcut and never gave up. This time around, I'ma stay up.
All right. So I grew up in Brookings, South Dakota. Brookings has about 24,000 people. That's not including the college. We have a D1 college, SDSU Jackrabbits. Um, I've always been a very visual person. So even as a kid, I was always drawing and painting and watching movies. Um, the unfortunate thing, I guess, depending on how you look at it, is from the beginning, I always hated school. Uh, but art class was my favorite time of day every day. If I was in any other class, I would be just waiting, staring at at the clock, waiting for art class. And so, and I'm trying to remember my first time that I picked up a camera, and I can't remember the exact time, but what I do remember is the first time that I like took a photo and kind of received some sort of like praise or recognition for it. Uh, my mom had this like baby blue Canon point and shoot, uh, and there's this like robin's nest way up in a tree in the yard, and I wanted to get a picture of it. So I climbed all the way up into the top of the tree and took a photo of this robin's nest. And then I was so excited about the photo that I sent it to my grandma. And she at the time was like writing a lot and working with like some newspapers or magazines or something like that. And she was able to write a story and get my photo published, which was so cool. And this was in the very early years. So like I don't even know. I was probably like 8, 10, somewhere in there. But yeah, that's like the first memory I have of like taking a photo or video with my camera. Um, yeah, always been creative. I'd even dove into like writing poems. But every time I would write a poem, it always had a visual element. So for example, there's this Japanese poem type called a haiku, and I was, like, obsessed with these for a while, and basically, the whole idea behind a haiku is it can only be 17 syllables. So, you kinda have to you're limited by the amount of words that you can say in this poem, and the poems are always about some sort of story, and so it's kind of like a fun challenge to write a haiku and tell some sort of story with only 17 syllables. So yeah, that's like my super, super early years. And so if I had an actionable tip about that time period of my life, and I'm sure a lot of you would relate or agree with this, but it would be stay curious, and always explore different creative mediums. And I say that just because you don't know if you like something or you don't know if something is for you until you try it. And for whatever reason, I kind of had just as I was growing up, I had this deep obsession with trying out all these different creative mediums. Uh, I remember, like, I've used everything from like just like pencils, like with lead. And if you don't know, there's like different soft softnesses, or hardnesses, hardnesses, whatever it is, of lead. So the color or the texture of a pencil lead uh is measured in like numbers, and then you can like use like these blenders and erasers and all of that stuff to create highlights and textures. So I was really obsessed with that at first. Then I dove into painting, did a lot of oil painting on like massive, I don't know, like 16 by 24 canvases. Um, all that stuff. Even I even did, like, a lot of, colored pencil stuff as well, to the point where I would even submit a lot of my, art to different, like, competitions. And I actually won, or I think I placed, like, top 3 in a couple, national competitions, for, like, some wildlife stuff. I think it was, like, National Turkey Federation or something like that. Um I was always, like, obsessed with animals, so constantly practicing, the how to, like, accurately portray the texture of fur and feathers and all that fun stuff. Alright, moving into high school, this is 2012. Oh, and by the way, early on, you can probably guess, I didn't make any money, through any of my creative pursuits, nor was I even thinking about it at that time, actually. But we got 2012. I enter high school. High school was a difficult time for me, not because of, like, grades or anything, but because it was so draining to learn about things that didn't interest me. So, very early on, I was just like, "I'm a creative person. I wanna express myself in the ways that I think are, interesting or worth my time." And as soon as I got to school and they were just like, "You have to do all of these things that are really confusing and difficult," that really made me angry. And so I felt trapped in a box, not really able to express myself in the ways that I was best at. And I'm sure a lot of you could relate to that. Uh, Thankfully, I was able to find a couple classes that I did enjoy, similar to my super young years. Uh, Looking back, some of these classes were probably the ones that like sparked my creative career as we know it today. And I'll always be like forever grateful for these classes. So the first one was I had this art class at Brookings High School with this teacher, Mr. Livingston. And I don't really remember a lot of the projects that we got into. Just classic high school art class stuff, right? But something about the way that Mr. Livingston like looked at compositions always stuck with me. So like for example, when we were trying to like figure out like proportions, it's like really important, especially when drawing like organic shapes. Proportion is huge in terms of like making things look realistic and all that. And what he told me that like has always stuck with me is instead of looking at the subject itself, look at all of the empty space around the subject. And you can use that empty space to direct the eye towards your subject. And I just thought that was like so interesting and like also so genius. Um, and so yeah, I kind of believe that that is where a lot of my composition style comes from is that art class. So, that was that. And then the other class that had such such a big impact on me was this Photoshop class. It was I think it was either my junior or my senior year, and I really wish I could remember the teacher's name, uh, because this class was crazy. This was the first time they had ever done it. It was just like a Photoshop class, and this was the first interaction I had ever had with a teacher where they weren't trying to put me in a box. And so the first day of class, this teacher sits everyone down and goes, "You all have an A plus. So forget about the grades. Forget about all the stuff that you're used to worrying about when you're in a class. And let's just put in the effort to create something that you're proud of." And I was just so blown away by him saying that, that it really, like, motivated me to, you know, put in the effort and learn as much as I could about Photoshop and all the different things that we could do with it, and, did you know you can literally animate videos inside of Photoshop? I had no idea, and so it was such a cool, eye-opening experience for me, and that kind of was the beginning of a obsession with computers and tech and kind of the digital side of creating art, uh, and yeah, so again, didn't make any money, unfortunately. I know that comes as a surprise. Didn't make any money from creative activities, but the actionable tip is, despite not knowing where you wanna go, always stay open to new experiences. So, yeah, I just, I know a lot of creatives struggle with kind of not knowing what they wanna do with their careers or with their life, and that's okay. That is absolutely okay. And I feel like the only way to get through that is to just be open to things as they come, and you'll know when it's like your thing, you know? Just like in the previous episode, I talked about how I really hope that these podcasts are like my thing, in terms of creating content and staying active on socials and contributing to our community. All right. 2016, I graduate high school and I'm off to college. I think college was really important for me. It's where I developed my creative voice. Originally, I thought that I was going to go into graphic design, um, just because I didn't know what else was out there. I didn't even know that the job I have now was even an option. And I don't think my parents did either or anything like that. It was just like it was a time in the world when creative careers were not normal. They were not like, accepted as like a mainstream option. And in fact, a lot of teachers would actually steer kids away from those types of jobs because they didn't believe that you could make money. But I decided to kind of, yeah. So I was like just looking for programs in creative design or sorry, graphic design, or like some sort of very generalized media program. And at that same time, I was also looking for a college that had a soccer team. I played soccer my entire life, and so yeah, I wanted to play in college, and I ended up going to Loris College in Dubuque, Iowa. I know those are some difficult names to pronounce, but yeah, Loris College, Dubuque, Iowa. General media studies program was what I ended up taking on, and yeah, so prior to even arriving to college, um, I was always a very independent person. So I knew I wanted to do this for real. And so what I did is I bought my first camera and laptop before even getting to school. I was just like looking at all the course requirements and all that stuff, and it was like explaining all the stuff that we are gonna do. And so I figured having a camera and a laptop would allow me to not have to rely on the school and checking gear out and all that stuff. And I wanted to, obviously, like I've said before, I'm a depth guy. I love just going deep on things, and taking things into my own hands. And so that was kind of my way of doing that before even knowing what I got myself into. So, college. The general media studies program was intro to editing, a little bit of script writing. The specific program at Loris was really known for their news. Unfortunately, I cannot stand news, at all, and it grinds my gears, and I don't find it creatively fulfilling in any way. That is, no shame to anyone that is into news and taking, that path, but it was just, clearly not for me, but it was really frustrating. You're probably sensing a theme here. It was really frustrating that, I had to, like, go through those courses even though I was like, I don't wanna do news. I don't wanna be a newscaster. I don't wanna produce it. I don't wanna do any of that stuff. Um, just didn't feel creative to me. But yeah, and I probably already said it, but we did a little bit of script writing. I'm trying to think what else we did. Honestly, I'll be blunt, not worth the money, but met a lot of really cool people. And speaking of which, there was this teacher, Seth Myers. I don't even know where to start with this guy. Um, like my first impression of him was when he was teaching about how all of the media in the United States is owned by the Big 5. There's literally only 5 companies in the entire United States that own all the media, and each one of those owners and organizations has, you know, political affiliations and, ethical differences and all all of that stuff. So I was like, "Okay, this guy touches on my kinda topics, like, just edgy stuff that no one else will touch." And he was just, like, super energetic and, like, over the top about everything, uh, and would just go super deep. So, naturally, we kind of, uh, meshed together really well. I would try and get into as many classes with him as possible. To the point where we would even, I even helped him senior year, we started an entirely new class at the college, it's called experimental video, and I helped him, like, get it up and running, and I even, led some of the classes, just because we were both just realizing how slow and how, behind the modern or, the education system is, and so we were just trying to come up with ways to provide, like, real life value for students that would be relevant today. Also in college, I discovered podcasts, which, again, has kinda led m all the way to this moment right here, me talking to you. And, the podcast that had the biggest influence on me early on was this podcast called Black with No Cream. The host was, his name was, Ben Haggerty, and if you're not familiar with him, he literally has he's worked with, so many big artists, it's insane, one of which you all know, Beyoncé, Chris Brown, I believe, at one point, and then, uh so many others. But yeah, and he started this podcast, because for similar reasons that I'm starting mine. It's just there wasn't a lot of people in music doing video talking about these topics, and it really resonated with me. And like I've probably listened to every single episode that came out 3, 4 times. And I genuinely believe without that podcast, I would not be where I am today. So shout out to Black with No Cream podcast. I think it just got revived by Ben. So shout out to Ben. I hope to meet him one day. And yeah. Another thing that kinda just sparked me on the path that I'm on now is, I saw this recap from this guy, on Instagram. His Instagram handle was Ugly Steffi. Already an interesting name. And when I found his Instagram page, I think, someone in one of my classes, sent me his page. This dude, like, uh, he climbs, like, skyscrapers and, like, takes photos and videos of doing it. It's insane. But he was at a festival with this artist called Liquid Stranger, and he had this crazy, crazy edit. And from that moment on, I knew that that's, like, the direction I wanted to go. That's, like, the type of work I wanted to create. And some crazy full circle moments was, like, me meeting him and then becoming friends with him, and now we keep in touch all the time, and it's so cool. And I tell him that, and he he couldn't believe it either. I didn't tell him for a while, but he knows now. And yeah, so another thing that happened in college was after listening to the Black with No Cream podcast, I started networking. I started looking for opportunities to kind of get my foot in the music industry door, however big or small that would be, right? So, first ever recap video, I was, believe it or not, I wasn't even like planning to make it. I just like, I was at some bar downtown Dubuque, and this artist was playing, and I may or may not have had a couple drinks in my system, so I was feeling it, and the ideas just started flowing, and I took out my iPhone 6S. Feel like that dates me. Feel really old saying that, but I took out my iPhone 6S and just started filming. And I literally, still buzzing, run back to my dorm and literally stay up until 6 or 7 in the morning editing this video, and then I send it to him, in the Instagram DMs, and I don't even think he responded for, like, a week. But then he found it, and he was like, "Hey, this is amazing. Thank you. Next time, can you bring your actual camera? And we'll do, like, an actual recap with your camera." And I was like, "Absolutely." And so that was kinda like my first ever gig, my first ever kind of client, if you wanna call it that. I think I got paid maybe 30 bucks, maybe not even at all. Cause like, I had been listening to podcasts, and I knew that in order to get my foot in the door, I would have to offer my services for free at some point, uh, just to kind of prove myself, you know? So, another thing I was learning from these podcasts, I'm telling you guys, like, I was a crazy avid listener. I had the itch, I had the bug. I was listening to episode after episode after episode to the point where, like, I was all caught up, so I'd start listening to old episodes, and then the new one would come out, and then I'd go listen to that, and then start listening to old episodes again. It's crazy, but, something I took away really early on is that you gotta put yourself out there, you gotta talk to people, you got to show face. So, if you don't know this about me, and it probably doesn't seem like it even on this video now or on this podcast now, is that, like, I'm an extreme introvert. Like, I can sit in a pitch black room for 8 hours by myself and be the happiest human on earth. Like, I don't need other human interaction, to just, like, be myself and be happy. And so, after, like, listening to all these podcasts, like, I knew that I had to change that. I had to come up with, I had to, like, just swallow my pride and all my stress and anxiety and go up and talk to people. And that was kind of what I did, just as often as I could while I was in college. And from there, it became a grind. It became a daily and weekly grind. And then that turned into years of grinding. So, uh, basically kind of got that itch probably like end of my sophomore year. And then junior, senior year, I was going hard. You can ask all my roommates between sports classes and clients. I was doing well over 80 hours a week, uh, just trying to build my career on the side while taking classes and showing up to practice, right? And, like, to the point where I would even forego, like, going out or going to parties, or, like, we would have parties at our house, like, as junior and senior, we'd have parties at our house, and I would just be in my room with the door closed, and I can, like, hear the bass bumping while I'm on the computer, like, editing a client video that I shot earlier in the week. Like, that's how hard I was going, and, like, my roommates, they'd always, like, pop in, and be like, "Hey, dude, what's up? Like, are you done yet?" I'd be like, "Nope." And most nights, I wouldn't even go to bed till well after the party was done, and but I was the happiest, that's probably, like, the happiest time for me in college, was just grinding it out, 'cause I was passionate about making this a thing. Uh, and another thing that I realized when I entered college is that, like, soccer was not my end goal. I realized really quickly that I feel like every high schooler coming into college is like, "Oh, yeah, like, I'm gonna be, like, top 2, top 3, top 5, on the team," and, 'cause a lot of us are the best, or, some of the better players in high school, so but dude, college, it's another level. So, right away, I was like, "Oh, yeah, this is not my career, my long-term career." So, immediately, I started pivoting and putting all my time into this creative stuff. And just to give you an idea of, like, all of the different things that I was trying, I was, like, early on, like, back in the golden days of Instagram, when all the travel pages were popping, like, I was hiking through the woods, taking photos of myself, trying to pose as this, like, travel influencer. It was, what a time. Anyways, I even had an Etsy store. I would do, like, graphic design. I would make these, like, posters of, Tyler, the Creator, 21 Savage, stuff like that, and I would sell that stuff on my Etsy store on hats and posters. Uh, I did these super cringy YouTube vlogs. I even deleted them off my YouTube because they were so bad. It was ugh, uh, those are deep in the archive somewhere, and I hope they never see the light of day. But yeah, music videos, documentaries, for classes, like, I tried it all. Um, and so, alright, graduation started to come around, or lack thereof, because of the pandemic. Um, and I was doing my capstone, and at this point, in college, it's my senior year, I would I would drive to Chicago. So, I'm in Dubuque, Iowa, and I would drive to Chicago on, like, a Friday night. It's a 3.5 hour drive. I would stay in Chicago, shoot, like, either Friday night or Saturday night, something like that, for whatever client, whatever show or club that I was at, and then I would drive back, and then I would edit the video for the client in between all the classes and the practice and all that stuff. And then the next weekend, I would drive to Chicago and do the same thing, and just continue to build my network, and just, like, put in reps. And yeah, that I was so I round trip, I'm putting in 7 hours of driving, just driving alone, uh, to kinda make it happen, because I knew that, like, Chicago had it was the closest market where I knew I would find a bunch of people that were better than me. And so that was kinda my thought process, is like, "Alright, I just need a," and there's, like, gonna be more clients in a larger market, right? So, I'm doing all of this, and the head of the media studies program, I'm not gonna mention his name, because we would we would butt heads a lot. And, shout out, so another reason I loved Seth Meyers is he would allow me to use my client videos for my class videos. So I'd kinda be able to, like, double dip, because Seth knew what I was doing. I told him that I was, like, driving to Chicago, like, every weekend. He was like, "Oh, shit, like, this kid really wants it," right? So he would kinda just, like, encourage me in that way, and the head of the media studies program did not like that, would not allow me to double dip, and yeah, like, threatened I was, like, skipping classes to edit videos for clients, and, yeah, he threatened to not allow me to graduate, and I would, like, fail my capstone if I didn't, start showing up to classes again. Um, I even considered dropping out, and I kinda regret it just because I coulda saved a little bit of money, but at the same time, you you got parents to please and all that good stuff. But yeah, so almost didn't graduate. Um, uh, and then yeah, so I don't know how much money I made in those 4 years. Not a lot. It's got to be a couple thousand maybe, but that was across 4 years. And so for this period of my life, the actionable tip would be you gotta put in reps. There is no shortcut to becoming successful in anything that you do without putting in reps. If you find yourself like struggling to enjoy the process of getting better, you just gotta think of it as like going to the gym. You have to be consistent. You gotta put in the reps. Otherwise, you're not gonna see improvement. You're not gonna see growth. So that's like how I rationalize putting myself through the crazy stuff that I did is just like, all right, just putting in my time so that when the correct opportunities present itself, I'm ready. Got to stay ready. All right. Gonna take a little sip of coffee here. All right. We're 30 minutes in. This is great. This is wonderful. All right. 2020. I'm sure we all have a lot of really interesting stories from this year. Warzone came out. Shout out Warzone. My new obsession. I started my LLC in 2020, and I went full time as a creative straight out of college during a worldwide pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, this is as delusional and naive and dumb as it gets. If you are in college and you're thinking about going full time straight out of college, even with a decent amount of clients, don't do it. Don't do it. If it wasn't for my girlfriend at the time, Shy, who's now my wife, if it wasn't for her, I would not have made it through. I would not. I would have had to have taken a 9 to 5 job, and who knows where I would be right now. But instead, she was willing, reluctantly willing, to support me and help us get through it. And yeah, like, that was a very dark time, and I know it was for a lot of us. Yeah, don't so this is really important. I know that people glorify this going full time and all that stuff, but if you don't have financial stability, that is a very bad idea. So, uh, what I always say is you must have financial stability to have a thriving creative mind. The issue with putting monetary pressure on your art, especially early in life, is that there's pressure on you and your art to make you money. And art and when art is fueled or motivated by money, that's when things can get really it's a downward spiral. I grew to resent my work and my clients, and I grew to dislike every single step of the process. So, 2020 was rough because I started this business and I was super excited, and then there's no clients. There's no events going on. There's no way for me to make money. Uh, like everything shut down. No one knew what to do. And it was just really dark. And had I thought it through and, kind of bit the bullet, or I don't know, and like got a regular real job, or just tried to find some sort of like creative-ish job, I think it would have been a lot different. So, what I recommend is, if you're about to graduate, get a job and find a mentor. If you're smart, you can get the job with the mentor. That's like a perfect situation. Is someone that you want to learn from, also provides a position for you to make money, but they're there to hold your hand and create structure, and they have experience when you don't, and that is invaluable when you're in that position. So, 2020, these numbers I don't think are super accurate, but I made about $16,000 from freelancing, but most of it was like remote editing because nothing was going on. Uh, or it was like $250 gigs from clubs that were open illegally. You didn't hear that from me. And the actionable tip from this time period of my life is, move with extreme intention and always have a plan. Correct. Protect your creativity with your life. All right. 2021. This is where I get scrappy, and I'm trying to build this creative career. I'm doing music videos, I'm doing show recaps, I'm doing graphic design. I think even one time I designed someone's tattoo. Like I saw on someone's Snapchat story that they wanted it. They needed someone to design them a tattoo. And I got paid like $50 for that. I even helped edit a podcast for my good friend and mentor Scotty Russell. At the time, it was a Perspective Collective, and then he renamed it. Man, that's embarrassing. I did over 100 episodes with him. Um, but dude, shout out to Scotty Russell, man. He's such a beast, and, an insane, creative coach, slash business coach. So if you guys are interested in that type of thing, just search Scotty Russell, 2 S's, 2 L's, and, yeah, he's a beast. Uh During this time, I made sure to focus on building my network. This goes back to kind of all the podcast advice that I was consuming. I was finding people on social media, and I was really trying to understand who was doing what and where. So, who's in the city, who's being active, what companies are they working with? I would dive really deep into these things, and that's something I still pride myself on today, is knowing who's doing what in the industry. I think having that knowledge and keeping kind of like your ear to the ground is so valuable, and underrated, I think. And that's just being online. That's not even like in-person interactions. Like, just knowing kind of what's going on online is a skill, and I think it's worth developing. Another thing I was doing is just staying active in Facebook groups, meeting people face to face at events, just doing anything that I could do to find new potential clients. Right. Another thing I did was I took a huge leap and invested in myself by creating a business plan. And thanks to my dad and his relationship with uh, a bank back home, I was able to secure a $25,000 business loan. Um, with this loan, then I bought gear because the biggest thing at that point in my career was I had this Canon 80D, and it was great, and it was an amazing starting point for me. But the camera like, really struggled in low light, and a lot of the gigs that I had were in clubs with really poor lighting, so I needed an upgrade, and I needed something that could shoot in 4K and slow motion and all that stuff, 'cause I needed when you're in Chicago or just in any bigger market, there's other people doing what you do. There is, whether you know who they are or not, and it's important that you're able to keep up with them and, provide a high quality product in order to compete with them. So that was, like, my mindset was, like some of this stuff in the room right now, like this aperture light, that's, like, on me right now, if you're watching on YouTube, that was from the loan. The camera that I'm recording this on was from the loan. This desk, and my monitors and all of that stuff from the loan. So I don't think I would ever I think if I was to go back, I would still do that. I would absolutely still do that. Now, in 2021, there was a breakthrough moment. This was inside of the Black with No Cream Facebook group that I talked about earlier. There was this woman, her name was Sydney Golick, and she was just she put out a form, and it was just like looking for remote editors for some YouTubers. And I was like, again, just put my name in the hat, just looking for any opportunity uh, to make some money. And she ended up reaching out. It ended up working out, and I was working with the YouTubers and Sydney, and she was kinda being the producer in that situation, kinda being the middle woman, and everything was great. And then all of a sudden, she was like, "Hey, uh, Lollapalooza is in Chicago, and it might be coming back this year. Would you be interested in a PA job?" And I was like, what do you mean? Like, how?" I didn't know that you did, like, live music or had any of those, like, types of connections. I thought you just did a bunch of YouTube stuff, and she's like, "No, no, like, this is my actual, like, career is, like, in the music industry." And I was like, "That's so crazy." Uh, and what a cool lesson, is, like, despite like, you never know what someone what has going on in their life. You never know what connections they have. You never know, what side projects they have going on, and this was just I got lucky, but at the same time, I was putting myself in a position to connect with people, and, uh, I'm so grateful, for that opportunity. That was so crazy. Prior to Lala, though, a buddy of mine that I had connected with in the city, his name is, Matt, uh, Piera? Dude, I'm so sorry, bro. I can never pronounce your last name right. But he reached out and because he had been contacted by this company, Grow Creative. They were building a festival team for a new Chicago festival called Sueños. And so prior to Lala, I was brought on for my first ever festival with the team, um, with Grow Creative for Sueños in 2021, and it was such a exhilarating, stressful, but just super motivating experience. Just not at all what I expected, but I got that bug again, I got that itch to just go hard as hard as I could, And yeah, then after that, my next gig was Lollapalooza, and that went well, and I was a PA with the photo team. Uh, and then, yeah, kinda just, like, continued to do the clubs and work with, some of my close friends and DJs. Uh, in 2021, I made 18,000. So, a significant jump. It's not bad, but still not a livable wage, and definitely not enough to pay, my girlfriend, now wife, back after supporting me for almost an entire year. Um And yeah, so the actionable tip is constantly be top of mind, but not in an annoying way. Reach out to people and introduce yourself and stay active in their circles. People will notice, and this will get you hired. It just takes time and patience. So, what I'm trying to say is constantly be talking to people, introducing yourself. And when I say stay active in their circle, that just means comment on their posts. Um, Reach out and DM them, like if you know it's like their birthday or something like that. Like, just like don't reach out and ask them for things over and over and over again. That will not get you anywhere. People don't like that. You'll get blocked. Just be top of mind, be around, be supportive of them and the things that they're doing, and when it's time, they will bring you on, I promise. Moving on to 2022, I entered the music festival circuit and began getting on teams. So, circuit makes it sound, I don't know, too formal or something like that. It's just there's a lot of creatives out there that only do festivals. So there's like they'll travel all over the United States and do only festivals. And a lot of those people are like friends with each other because they're all doing the same festivals. And so the thing with festivals is because they're an annual event, once you get on a team and you do a good job, you're usually invited back. So this is what I found to be a great way to stabilize your income a bit. Not the most reliable, again, because it's only annual. So you got to find a way to, get enough festivals to keep you afloat for the entire year. Uh, but that's not, again, that was never my goal is to just be full time festival shooter. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is back in college, I had a lot of help networking in Chicago. I was only able to build my network in Chicago because of my good friend Flynn Collins, aka Flaninho. He's a tech house artist here in Chicago, and he was also at Loras College, and he would we played soccer together, but he would drive me to Chicago and introduce me to people. So like people in his circles, and I was fortunate enough to meet a lot of his friends, and a lot of those people are still my friends today. So, like, shout out Nick Mozzie, part of the Brasser Boys. We got Eric and James Estrada, the AO brothers. We got Max Quinones. Maximo is his artist name. We have Gracie, aka Gracie in Red. That's Flynn's girlfriend. And of course, my very close friend, Matt Sherman, aka Sherman the Booth. Love all of you guys, and if it wasn't for that group of people right there, my presence in Chicago would be almost non-existent. So, like, don't ever forget the people that you started with, that built you up, even if you're not talking, anymore or anything like that. Like, the time and energy that they put into my career, I will forever be grateful for. 2022 was largely about just building and proving my worth to all the people that I would interact with. So it's just like putting in the reps, treating everything as the most important thing, And I was fortunate enough to make $32,000 in 2022. In, in 2022, uh, some good progress, but definitely still struggling. Like again, $32,000, not a livable wage in Chicago, and yeah, so it's just like this like constant starving artist cycle. My actionable tip from this period of my life would be treat everyone as if they could be your next boss. You never know who is watching and what connections they might have. It's a little bit repetitive from earlier, but it still rings true. Like, I'm telling you guys, don't like, whatever first impressions you have of someone, disregard them, like, just don't walk on eggshells, don't tiptoe around people, but be respectful and provide value and show up and be the best person that you can be, and it will speak volumes. 2023 was another year of building for me. But now I was focused more on developing relationships with larger groups, larger clients. So, a couple notable names was Collective and Oris here in Chicago. Those are 2, production entertainment companies here, uh, that I worked closely with. Again, shout out Grow Creative. They ended up taking on, I think, North Coast here in Chicago, and then, obviously Sueños, and then tossed me a lot of other work as well. Alive Coverage, another, creative company, uh, but they're photographers and videographers that are from all over the United States. Lots more festivals, more shows, just, kind of, again, trying to solidify my position in this live music scene. Um, in 2023, I was flown out for my first ever festival. Well, not first ever festival, I was flown out for the first time. So, this was a Kid Cudi festival in Cleveland. I don't even remember, it's like something Moon was, like, the name of the festival. But dude, shout out, my buddy Jackson Wigger, also known better known as Jackson Visuals on Instagram. He was kind enough, to bring me on, and I'll just forever be grateful for him, trusting me and my abilities. Yeah, yeah, like, what a crazy opportunity. That same year, I was then flown out several more times, including EDC Vegas, EDC Orlando, and even all the way to Saudi Arabia, halfway across the world, for a festival called Soundstorm. Yeah, insane. It was, such a crazy feeling, to be, like, sitting in the airport, and that's where the ticket says you're going is Saudi Arabia, you know? Wild. Some kid from South Dakota was even able to pull that one off. I was also able to connect with, an artist you guys might be familiar with, Arizona Zerfus. We did a couple show runs that year. It was lots of fun. Learned a lot, just, like, working closely with an artist, of that size. In 2023, I made $64,000. We're getting there now, right? And it was 64,000, like, it might sound like a crazy amount to some of you, but please keep in mind, like, I did take out that business loan. I have credit cards and, trying to purchase gear and just stay on top of my career in that way. And yeah, so a lot of that money went back into paying off debt. And then, I'm out of college now. So student loans are starting to hit and all that stuff. So again, barely scraping by, and that's okay though. We're building. We're seeing progress. The actual tip here is I think what moved the needle was 2 things. 1, I never stopped developing my technical skills, and 2, I treated every gig as if it was the most important gig of my life. Guys, if there's any tip that is underrated in today's episode, this is it right here. Never, ever stop developing your technical skills, ever. Just commit to a lifelong journey of learning and growing and finding ways to improve your craft. This will pay you back in ways you've never imagined. Uh, and I know it can be scary. So, like, for example, when I was learning After Effects, I downloaded After Effects and then I didn't open it for like over 6 months. Like, I was just so terrified of jumping in and starting this new thing, and I always compare, like, learning a new software to, like, learning a new language because it is difficult, and it's a muscle memory thing. It's knowing what options you have and how to manipulate, all of those technical variables, and, yeah, it's difficult and it's scary, but I'm telling you, it is invaluable, to have, like, sought after technical skills. And then treating every gig as if it's the most important gig of your life. As, the theme of this podcast is putting in work, right? And working as hard as you can, to make the project the best that it can be, and this is that. Even if you're not getting paid that much, it doesn't matter. You show up and you absolutely smash that shit out of the park, okay? That is what you do. if you take action on anything, it's that. Put your heart and soul to it, and people will notice, and when that starts to happen, you can start charge a little bit more, you know? You can start charge a little bit more. You can get that back. All right. 2024, man, we are we are just it's I'm a little speechless right now. uh I was like scrolling through the Instagram and looking at all like my tax returns and stuff. It's a trip down memory lane, and 2024 was a milestone year. Uh, I'm still doing all the things that we talked about, but now I'm trying to tap into new ways of making money and getting my name out there. I really wanted to grow my YouTube channel. Like I've always wanted to grow my YouTube channel, and someone that I was paying attention to in Chicago was this kid Ben Gujic. You fucking legend. All right. Uh, Ben was putting stuff out on socials that he wanted to grow his YouTube, and I wanted to do the same, so I reached out to him, and it was crazy because he was like he DM'd me back, he's like, "Dude, I was literally gonna reach out to you today," and it was just it was perfect timing, and we both were clearly, like, paying attention to what the other was doing, and it's cool. It was really cool, and we connected, and, he would come over to my apartment, and I'd go over to his, and we would just, like, dive deep into analytics, and we'd have these long, long creative conversations. Sometimes we'd get in trouble, or I would get in trouble with my wife for, uh, yeah, being a couple hours late. But anyways, my relationship with Ben, just kept growing, and became really good friends, and he did not necessarily have the same foothold or experience in the music industry that I did, and so, he was, like, constantly asking for different, advice and different ways to get his foot in the door, and he found, or he was contacted or connected with this festival called Breakaway. And so he was able to secure himself like a media pass, and he was just going to go and shoot for free. And what we also found out was that there was the main media coverage team for that festival was this company called Curza. And I'd already known of Curza for a while, similar to a live coverage. It's creatives from all over the United States, but they're collective and it just yeah, so, like, they build out teams and everyone has their clients and all that good stuff, and Ben and I put together this plan. It's called Operation Outdo Curza, because the thing is a lot of these established companies have the larger clients, so it was like, "Okay, how do we get noticed by Curza or in a live coverage or like, someone like that and start getting put onto these other teams?" So what we came up with this plan where it's like, okay, here's the people on that team that are going to be there that weekend. Here is work that they've done for Breakaway in the past. How can you, Ben, create something different? Something that catches everyone's eyes. And then, we also talked about, all right, turnaround time. Like I was like, dude, you wanna turn some heads? Crank that shit out overnight. Just do it. Film all that stuff, crank it out overnight, deliver it to them, and if it's gas, and people will notice. And we were fortunate enough. Well, Ben was fortunate enough to he caused some ripples. There's always politics involved. But he was able to turn a lot of heads and was able and actually got contacted by Kurza directly. And yeah, so they started that relationship, Ben and Kurza, and then eventually Ben looped me in with Kurza, and we started doing some test projects and just getting to know the four founders. We got uh Chris Yoder, we got Danilo Lewis, we got James Winterhalter, and we got Joe Larkin. Like, if you guys are in like, if anyone know like, everyone knows these guys. Like, these are music industry legends. Those 4 guys are unbelievable, um, and crazy talented and some of the nicest human beings you'll ever meet, and so I've had the pleasure of getting to know them and work with them, and then I was asked to join Curza as a core member in July of 2024. Oh, wow. I never thought that I was gonna join a group like this, but I found out that I can keep all my clients. I can work for other people, other companies, and, like, yes, Curza, and a live coverage, for example, they're competitors, but at the same time, we're all creatives trying to make a living and build our careers, um, and so, like, there's no saltiness when it comes to just trying to get a bag, you know what I mean? So yeah, and yeah, so Curza again, just it's a collective. They have their core members, and then they have their network outside of the core members, and they're all over the United States. And yeah, we come together and build out teams for certain events, and it's sick. It's dope. And it's one of the massive perks is Curza, with all of these just like super talented people, we can combine our networks. So now, instead of the resources of one person, now we have the resources of the entire team, the entire group, and it's it's really cool. Like, if you guys wanna improve or grow as a creative, I highly recommend that you find a group of people that are like-minded and wanna grow and build, because that's when, everything starts to compound and you start to slingshot each other forward. Uh Growth is inevitable when you're working together as a group like that. Um, Also in 2024, I was able to make my directing debut with Curza. My good buddy Damiano, aka Emorphic, we shot this. It's called the Project Containment. Uh, it's like a short film slash tour announcement, 2 part video. It was so much fun. We filmed it in LA, over 2 days, 3 locations. Um, Got to meet some unbelievable, uh, creatives on that project and just super, super grateful for that. And yeah, and so with the help of Karza and becoming a core member and all that good stuff, I was able to make in 2024 over $100,000. I believe it was hundred and 116, I think $116,000. Here's the deal though. Again, that sounds like a lot, right? But I also got married in 2024 to my wife, Cheyenne, and we paid for the entire wedding ourselves, and it was not cheap. So, in addition to having the business loan out, in addition to having all my credit cards maxed out through gear and for the wedding, and then her having to take out loans and a ton of credit cards, $100,000 suddenly gets spent really, really quick. Um, and so, like, obviously super grateful, and I never dreamed that, I could make $100,000 with this, silly little career. But, man, it feels good, um, but I would love to, especially in 2025, I would love to just kinda take control of my finances, get rid of debt. Um, if you're able to build your creative career without debt, highly, highly recommend. But actionable tip, never give up and always be yourself. Like we've talked about the dark times in 2020. Um, Had I given up, I never would have been asked to join Curza. And had I, thrown my towel in and got a real job, like who knows where I would be today. And being yourself, being your true, real self, is what attracts similar people to you. So, all the founder guys that I talked about and all the guys, or men and women that are a part of Kurza, we are all like-minded. We're all on the same wavelength in terms of just, like, energy and goals and vibes and all of those things. It's so important to just be yourself. Like, I cannot state that enough. Uh, like, Kurza is literally just a bunch of homies who are all just trying to make a living doing this crazy creative thing, you know? Wow. That brings us to 2025. Lots more traveling, lots more events. This year already, I've had the opportunity to film the Super Bowl. I was actually on the field for the coin toss and for the teams running out, which was such a crazy experience. I can now say that I have officially filmed the largest live event in the United States, which is insane. And then I've also flown to Saudi uh, earlier this year already, and I'm going back later this month. Um, Early 2025. Now I'm doing mostly just remote editing and then traveling kind of here and there. Next gig I think is Coachella coming up, so that's gonna be tight. Well, not Coachella, the actual festival. There's events surrounding Coachella that we're covering. And then, yeah, just to give you guys an idea of, like, where I would love to go in the future, a big goal of mine is eventually I would love to become a full-time director, so I wanna direct as many projects as I can this year. And then I also wanna build more revenue streams. So, this podcast, hopefully one day will become profitable. Then we got YouTube, brand partnerships, digital products, one-on-one coaching. So those are all things that you guys can look forward to as this year goes on. And yeah, like the big actionable tip here is keep your mind open. You never know where life will take you. So like again, don't ever give up. Like whatever you're dreaming of, like I always try and tell my siblings this is like I'm the oldest of 10 siblings, by the way. How crazy is that? But yeah, I always tell them like, "You gotta chase your dreams. Don't like, you can always like, if you move away from home and chase your dreams, like, and everything fails, you can always move back home. You can always move back home." And there's no shame in that at all. I have a lot of friends, uh, that, like, still live at home and save so much money, like, and they're debt free, and, like, they're going to be able to eventually just buy a house outright, or just, like, go live their life the way they wanna live it without debt, and that's really powerful, so don't ever think that that is not an option or that that's shameful or anything like that. It's quite the opposite. Alright, one more little coffee break here, a little sip. There we go. Mm, love me some espresso. Alright. This brings us to the hot take segment. Let's go. All right. These hot takes are meant to get you thinking and are purely my opinion. There is no such thing as right or wrong here. The intention is to provide food for thought. All right. The big man, the big Ben Gujic came through with a really interesting hot take topic, and this is stealing like an artist versus copy and pasting. What he's referring to is this kind of, statement originates from a book called Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon, and essentially, what Austin talks about is how to, basically, his thought process is that technically, there's no such thing as, like, an original idea, right? Because we all consume all of these different types of art and we live life in these in like similar environments and there's culture and all of those things that we consume and then we filter that through the thing that is us, right? And then we put out whatever that art is, like, however we interpret all the things that we have seen and done and all that stuff, right? So, so what he says is there's no such thing as original idea, and that it's important to know how to come up with an idea that doesn't directly rip from someone else's idea. So, let's see. A perfect example is, let's say I love let's see. Okay, let's go super simple, right? Let's go, all right, uh, one person creates, uh, a beach ball, okay? And they believe the beach ball should be white, red, blue, and yellow, okay? The blow up beach ball. But someone else doesn't see, like, maybe they're, for example, a perfect example would be if you're colorblind, some of those colors would not show through. So the way that they see the world is in different colors. So for them to steal, okay, so yeah, to like steal like an artist would be to reimagine this beach ball. Maybe instead of, maybe there's a different texture on it, and obviously put some different colors, maybe different patterns on it. And now that is an original beach ball, according to, this ideology. And obviously, we're all, like, we're creatives here, or if you're not, you know people that, like, make videos or take photos or whatever, and a lot of times, people will get called out for stealing someone's style or doing something that's, like, too similar to another person's work. Um, as artists, we're extremely protective of our work, right? Uh and sometimes, people look at it as flattery when people copy them, and other times they're, quite disgusted when someone, copies them. But I think, like, a responsible way of copying someone is to acknowledge that that person created something original to them, and then putting your own spin on that thing, okay? Um the beach ball example is not very good, but, like, you get the idea. It's taking 2 things that are original, combining them with your, you know, the way that you see the world or whatever, and coming up with something, in quotes, "new," but it's kind of similar, you know? Uh, definitely don't this is not your permission to copy and paste, you know, someone else's work and then claim it as your own. That is straight up stealing. But stealing like an artist is finding a new angle on something that's familiar. There. Yeah, I think that's the best way to describe it. All right. Moving on to the Q&A segment. Gotta make sure we're still recording here. Wow, an hour and 14 minutes. Man, all right. Well, this is woo, good stuff. If you're still here, I really appreciate you. This is awesome. All right. Q&A segment. Here I will answer 5 questions from you guys. I chose each question based on its relevance to you, the listener, and the knowledge that we can gain from it. If I don't use your question, it's not personal, but I just can't do 30 questions in an episode, you know? Like, I'll do my best to get to everyone over time, but these 5 today are the ones that we're focusing on. All right. Red Eye Movies says, what machine do you use for video editing? So right now I'm on, so my first ever laptop, well, we'll start there, was a Dell Precision. Uh, dude, the thing is like 20 pounds, uh, gets super hot. It's like a brick. Um, and it got the job done. And then my second computer was this Razer Studio 15 that I'm recording, everything on with like OBS right now. And that's fine, but it was really struggling. It was like, despite, this that has a NVIDIA, graphics card in it. It's RTX 5000. So it's a really nice graphics card for a laptop like that, but it still struggles with some video codecs when editing, like in terms of like when you like try and scrub, excuse me, when I try and like scrub through footage with that computer, I would always get a lot of buffering and it gets really hot. But the game changer was when I switched to Apple, the Apple Silicon series, the M1 Max, the MacBook Pro M1 Max. Oh my gosh, this machine is an absolute beast. That's what I've been editing on for like the last year and a half now, and it's been an absolute game changer. Like it can crank out 4K. You can scrub all sorts of video codecs. I've edited red footage, like raw black magic footage, RE footage, like Sony FX 6, FX9 footage. It can handle it all. Um, and yeah, I cannot recommend the M series MacBooks like more. Like they are so good. And I think now it's M3. M3. So if I'm you, I would max out an M3. Like just get all the specs. Minimum 4 terabyte SSD internal, like just max it out. Cause like you probably won't need to buy another computer for a very long time after that. And this is a little tip. You can actually sign up with Apple as a business and you'll get business discounts. You can have like a business account with them and you can actually like lease the computer. So, like, if you wanted to just pay, like, a monthly amount and then be able to upgrade to the newest laptop whenever it comes out, you have that option. I'm almost done with my lease now, and I'll definitely make the jump to the M3 or M4 or whatever we're at now. I think it's M4 actually. But alright, moving on. Jana is my wife's good friend, Jana, who's also my friend, obviously. And Jana is just getting into building her own business now as well. She does a lot of like clothing design, and so she asks, "How do you maintain motivation even during slow seasons?" And I thought this was such a good question. Oh man, yeah, I think this is something we all struggle with. Um, here's the thing: motivation is not something you can maintain. It's not. It's something that's very fleeting. You don't you can't just, like, conjure up motivation. That's, like, the issue that people have or, like, they discover is that they have motivation at one point, they start this thing, then they lose the motivation, and then they stop doing the thing. And so we can't so you gotta push motivation out the window. Whatever is motivating you, like, right now is not gonna motivate you in the next season, you know? And so what I recommend is building systems. Create a system, create a routine that helps you get into your creative flow, that helps you deal with and cope with these slower periods. So, my system for slow seasons is I immediately default to remote editing because I know I can reach out to X number of people and get X number of projects that I can edit right here at home, but I don't have to travel around the world, and the client doesn't have to spend money on plane tickets and travel and Airbnbs or hotels, whatever it is, right? And so develop a system for you to like so for example, Jana, like let's say you're in a slow season now. If I'm you, I would be like, okay, let's take advantage of this time where I don't have to work on anything for clients and build out maybe your branding a little bit. Let's develop the brand to attract a certain type of customer. Maybe we start to put out like so sometimes so, like, for video people, we put out work that's for clients, but hopefully we're also putting out work that's just for us, just like little passion project edits or videos or something like that, right? So, what I would recommend for you is, like, maybe you start experimenting with your clothing design and your styles and maybe kinda push yourself to learn a new technical skill during these slow seasons. That's another thing. Like I'm currently learning Unreal Engine, so that's like a 3D software. And this slow season, kind of beginning of the year, winter, early springtime is usually slow, and so I often will dedicate that to learning. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that helps. All right, next we got Spicy Boo Thing. I love that name. Um, I tried to find your name on Instagram, but you don't have it on your profile, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay. But you ask, how do you find your creative style? Oh, okay. So this is a really loaded question, and I could spend hours on this, and eventually I will create an entire episode on this. But something I would encourage you to do is sit down and identify the different things that inspire you. So this could be things around you. Let's start with environment. Do you like being inside or outside? Do you like warm colors, cool colors? Do you like gritty textures or do you like smooth, clean textures? These are all things, all questions that you need to ask yourself. What movies are your favorite? What photos are your favorite? Why are they your favorite? Like it's dissecting the things that interest you so that you can start to nail down where you would like to take your own style. And the beautiful thing is, like, let's say you're inspired by someone else's video, and we just talked about in hot takes about stealing like an artist. There is no reason you can't take an aspect of someone else's video and incorporate it into your own style. Like, for example, when I was first starting, I would watch a lot of Peter McKinnon videos. He's a well-known YouTuber, slash, like, he, had a lot of tutorials and stuff like that, but I always admired his use of, like, camera motion and whips and stuff like that, and so I started to incorporate that into my videos as well, and so it's just, like, certain stylistic choices that you admire from other people, and then you incorporate that into your project, the and then the whole project, contains just that little nugget of inspiration, and then the rest is you, you know? So that's how I'd go about that. And you're just gonna have to put in reps and just continue, and, like, something else too. You're never just gonna have, like, your style, and then it's just, like, set like that forever. A lot of times, your style will develop over time as you 'cause we're humans. We constantly change and develop and grow, and so our styles and the way that we think about the world and see the world and all that stuff will also change. Alright, I hope that helps. Ian. Good old Ian. If you guys watched the stream yesterday, we dropped in on Verdansk for the first time. Um, yeah, shout out Ian, man. He asked, "What equipment have you been using lately?" So we got, right now, we got the Shure, SMB something microphone right here. We got you guys on YouTube are watching from a Sony A7S III. We got the 16 to 35 G Master lens on there. Uh, we got this phone case. This phone case, it's made by Anchor, and it's really cool because you got this like little flip out thing, so you can like set it down like that. It's nice. Um, AirPod Pros, can't live without those. Um, For, like, a gimbal, I use, just the Ronin RS, I think it's 3? 3 Pro? RS3 Pro, for Ronin, and then I use, like, a lotta NVMe, SSD, drives so that, like, there's no, like, lag, uh, or buffering when I'm trying to edit videos. I'm trying to think what else. I have this small rig tripod that I found that is it can fit into my carry-on for international flights. It's so small, but it can be, like, really tall. Uh, and so, yeah, I've been digging that lately. I've been sending the link to everyone. And speaking of which, if you're looking for these things, eventually, so hopefully by next episode, episode 3, I will have Amazon, like I have an Amazon page that I set up this morning, and I'll link all the stuff that I use, so you guys can just go there and like check out what I'm using, whether it's for the podcast, whether it's for gaming, filming, all that stuff. Uh, Another piece of gear that's invaluable is this Aperture 120D light right here. Aperture makes some of the best lighting for filmmakers in the world. Like, highly recommend that. Not paid or sponsored, but hey, Aperture, hit me up. What's up? What's up? All right, then we got Sam Bird. He asks, I hope I said that right. Your last name right, by the way. He says, how do we break out from a 9 to 5 into working freelance or for a creative studio? Again, this is another topic that we could go in extreme depth on for hours. But here's what I'll say. You need a portfolio in order to attract freelance clients and or or to, prove to a creative studio that you can do the work that they need to do for their clients. And so what I would recommend is really hone in on like, okay, what kind of freelance work do you wanna do? What kind of client do you wanna work for? And then work backwards. See what that client is posting, see what kind of work that they're getting made for them, and then start to find ways to create work that you can add to a portfolio so that when you reach out through email or DMs, you can send them a link and be like, "Hey, would love to work with you guys. Here's my portfolio. Here's my, uh, I was gonna say number and email, but I think maybe that's too soon. I think you should just lead with, I would love to work with you. Uh, m- my s- my style and the type of people I want to work with is very similar to you guys. And here's my work. If you would I would love to continue a conversation on email or by phone if you're interested, right? And at that point, it becomes a numbers game. You just gotta start doing that with as many clients as you can. But the core piece is make sure you have a portfolio that they would actually be interested in, okay? So, for example, if you're going after, like, corporate clients, which have, like, usually larger budgets than music industry clients, then you need a corporate portfolio that shows like really clean, beautiful headshots and talking heads and um, clean graphics and stuff like that. Uh, whether so it's whatever industry you want to go into, corporate, real estate, music industry, I don't know, physical art, sculptures, whatever. Like just keep in mind what type of portfolio they would respond best to. Because if you send a music portfolio to a corporate or a corporate portfolio to a music type of client, like they're gonna be like, this is not helpful at all for me. So yeah, that hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully that's helpful. Guys, we are an hour and 29 minutes in. Holy cow. I know I wanted to do more than 30 minutes, but this is kind of outrageous. I'm sorry this dragged out so far or so long. But if you made it this far, I really appreciate you. Like seriously, you're a real one for that. Uh but yeah, if you enjoyed what you heard, please leave a review on Spotify or Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, sorry. And then subscribe and follow, like on your platform of choice. It means the world, and it's super helpful for me to get found and for the podcast to grow. And again, I'm gonna plug the newsletter, the Work in Progress newsletter. Once a week, you're gonna get a nice little bite-sized nugget of value uh, sent to your email. And then you'll also get updates for digital products, one-on-one coaching, like all that stuff will be on those emails, and you can be the first to know about it. And subscribing is just again super helpful for me if you're interested in giving back in that way. All right, this has been the Work to Create podcast, episode 2, the origin story. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you later.
I'm on a roll like a jalopy with the brakes cut. I done came up. Back then I had to stay up.